All right, guys, so my final financial predictions for 2025. We're already 6 months into the new year, and I think it's only right to give an update on where I believe the market will end up by the end of the year. And yeah, my predictions, specifically the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, and then also the crypto market as a whole. We are in the year after the halving, so I think we're going to see some good price movement towards the end of the year. And yeah, so I want to give my predictions on that. But before we get into the predictions, I want to talk about what happened in the first half of the year and why it happened or what happened. Once we do that, we'll jump right into the predictions. But yeah, if I had to categorize the first 6 months of 2025, I would say it was a bunch of uncertainty. Remember, the first event was the presidential election, right? We had that at the end of 2024, and everybody didn't know who was going to get elected. They had the people that were on for one side thought this person was going to get elected, and people for the other side thought this person was going to get elected. So yeah, that was the first piece of uncertainty going into 2025, just not knowing who was going to be in office. And I think once that ended, once the presidential election ended, we saw the market perk up a little bit. And this kind of went hand in hand with the interest rate cuts that we got. Remember, we got two last year. And I believe the first one was in October or September. And then we got one, I believe, in November or December. But we got two last year. And I believe it was 250 basis point cuts, or it was 150 basis point cut and then a quarter. But nonetheless, we got two, and that kind of perked up the market, but it also brought some uncertainty because we didn't know who was going to get elected. But after that, the market kind of, came back and we were good to go. But after that, then we had the whole thing with Ukraine and Russia. So that began to intensify, and people didn't know, okay, is my country going to get pulled into this? Is it going to be like World War III? We don't know, right? So that was kind of the second event that took place that didn't allow the market to boom the way people expected it. Because again, people expected 2025 to be this huge bull year, and it still could be. We still have 6 months left, but people thought we were going to start off the year going parabolic because, okay, we got a new administration, we already had two rate cuts, and we thought that we were just going to get more rate cuts, and that just didn't happen, right? So yeah, so the third thing that happened was the slowdown of rate cuts. After December, we didn't get any more rate cuts, right? We're already in June, and it looks like we won't be getting a rate cut until September. So again, the whole market was expecting for us to get, I think it was like 3 or 4 rate cuts this year, and we haven't got one yet. So that's something when the market expects something to happen, something significant like rate cuts, and we don't get that, then that's a good reason why we didn't go parabolic. Because again, rate cuts, lower interest rates, more liquidity into the market, and people get to borrow more and invest more into the market. But we didn't get that, and it looks like we won't be getting that until September. So that was kind of one of the things that put a damper on the market, people's expectations, and people kind of withdrew from investing the way they would have, and they just took a step back, right? So that was kind of the third thing that happened. So the first presidential election, Ukraine and Russia, the second, and the decision to not cut rates. So yeah, that kind of held us back. And I would say from January to March, we really didn't see much from the market. Now, on the crypto side, we did see some pumps. I'm not going to say we didn't see some pumps. But again, we were kind of trending back up to that all-time high of 110, or it was like 110 or 109. And from there, we crashed all the way back down to like 92, 93,000 for BTC. And we saw no movement from altcoins. So yeah, I think that was unexpected for most people, especially for crypto investors. That we thought, okay, if it wasn't January, we're definitely going to see it February. If it wasn't March, we were going to see it in April and so on and so forth. But now we're in June and we still haven't gone to that next leg up. Now, again, the price, in my opinion, of BTC looks great. We're at close to 110 right now. If we put it into perspective, we were at, I think, like close to 55, 60,000 middle of 2024, right? So that's a $60,000 appreciation, almost 50 to 60% on your money if you're investing in BTC from the middle of 2024 up until now. So, but again, people have targets for BTC. So they expect to see BTC, and again, we're going to go into the predictions, but they expected BTC to be a lot higher, right? And okay, so the next piece of the next event that happened in the first half of 2024 that kind of caused uncertainty in the market to stay somewhat stagnant is the tariffs, right? So the new president came in and basically said, okay, I want to place tariffs on these countries, and until we come up with a deal, these tariffs are not going to come off the table. Now, obviously, that was not the case. We took the tariffs off. I think currently we're in this like 90-day period where the tariffs are off, but they're going to come back at the end of 90 days, 3 months. But again, more taxes on other countries. They impose taxes on us. We don't have a deal. Again, uncertainty for the market. So, and the market does not like uncertainty. The market wants to know, okay, how much are these countries going to tax us? How much are we going to tax these countries? Are the prices are going to keep going up? The market doesn't like uncertainty. So a lot of people, especially like Wall Street, they're going to pull their funds to the side until there's some more stability when it comes to what we're going to do when it comes to tariffs, conflicts, presidential elections and things like that. So that was kind of like the fourth thing that happened. The fifth thing that happened with the with uncertainty is the Iran and Israel conflict. So again, more conflict, more potential for war. So the market doesn't like that, right? But when you have to spend money to send people to war, that affects the bottom line. That money comes from somewhere. So that, and when there's tariffs included in all of that, again, you just have a bunch of uncertainty. So yeah, bunch of conflicts, bunch of tariffs, bunch of political uncertainty basically caused the first half of 2025 to be one where it didn't play out to make the market go parabolic like everybody was expecting. All right, so that's kind of what happened in the first half of this, kind of the short and dirty of what happened in the first half of 2025. Now, what I believe is going to happen at the end of 2025, the next 6 months, and then also going into 2026, is I think we're going to get that bull market that everybody was expecting. Again, a lot of people, the sentiment right now, specifically in the crypto market, is like, oh, well, altcoin, we're not going to get an altcoin season. Bitcoin's going to go back down to 50, 60K, which I don't know why people expect that since we're seeing all these people establish Bitcoin reserves and people are buying BTC almost every day, or if not every day. Again, a lot of people just, specifically on crypto Twitter, or just finance Twitter, they're really pessimistic. If you see any piece of bad news, they're thinking everything's going to crash, right? But I honestly, that's where the opportunity comes in. When everybody, again, is fearful, this is when it's the time to make money. So, yeah. So my prediction for 2020, the end of 2025, so I'd said the indices, I'm going to give a prediction on the indices. So the NASDAQ currently sits at, let's see. So the NASDAQ, let's see where the NASDAQ sits at. Okay, so the NASDAQ's at 20,273. The Dow's at 43,800. And I'm just giving ballpark. It's somewhere, there's obviously some it's like cents behind that, but around 20,200 for the Nasdaq, 43,800 for the Dow, and then S&P is around 6,200. So, and I did the percentages, so they're up about 3 to 4% for the year. So since the end of 2024, the Nasdaq, the Dow, and the S&P are up about 3 to 4%, and they're on track to give a 6 to 10% return by the end of the year, which is typical for an investment, right? It's typical for a strong blue chip asset or indice like the Nasdaq, the Dow, or the S&P to give 6 to 12%, right? And the same for like property, it's like 6 to 12% is what you typically get. So we're already at 3 to 4%. It looks like, and my prediction is that we get an additional 3 to 4% on those indices by the end of the year. Now, if we end up getting more than 2 rate cuts, because right now, remember we were I wouldn't say promised, but we were predicting that we would get 4 rate cuts by this year, but we're only really going to get 2 this year, and I think a lot of those additional 2 will probably get on the first half of 2026. So yeah, I think if we get those 2 rate cuts this year, we will see the indices go up an additional 4 to 5%. So maybe you'll see the Nasdaq sitting at 22 to 23,000 by the end of the year. The Dow Jones, maybe we see it at 45, 46,000. And then maybe the S&P is like at 7,500 to 8,000 by the end of the year. So that's my prediction for the indices. Now for the crypto market as a whole, so I want to do it as market cap. Currently, the whole crypto market is sitting at 3.3 trillion. So I think we can definitely double or triple that by the end of the year, right? So right now we're sitting at 3.3 trillion as a whole for the crypto market. I think we could be at 6.5 to 7 trillion, or maybe even max 10 trillion by the end of the year. I think a lot of that money will go into BTC, but it does leave a lot of room for altcoins to move up. Because remember, a lot of these altcoins, if you look at the market cap, they're at 50 million, 100 million, a $1 billion market cap. You know, they can easily 10, 20, 30x. So I think a lot of altcoins, specifically like in the AI sector, DeFi, I think a lot of those would do 20 to 30x's if you're in the right one. Again, you got to do your own research. But BTC, I could see it being at 150 to 200,000 by the end of the year. Ethereum, I could see it at 6,000 to 10,000 by the end of the year. That's kind of my prediction for those two. And then we're going to have a bunch of altcoins that just 20 to all the way from 20 to 50x. Maybe you have 100x in there, but that's, really risky. Even obviously 20 to 50x. But I think a lot of these altcoins are just so small in market cap that we're going to see them move up pretty quickly here, especially when we see that Bitcoin dominance get to closer to that 55 to 56%. And I'm not sure if we're going to get that. But I definitely think the altcoins have a lot more room to run. I'm looking at the altcoin season indicator right now. It's 20 out of 100. Usually we're in altcoin season when it's at 70. So it's far away. It looks like it's far away, but that indicator moves pretty quickly. Like we could be at 20 out of 100 today. And I'm talking about if you go to CoinMarketCap, they have this altcoin season indicator. It's out of 100. And typically when we're in that like 80 to 100 range or 80 to 90 range, that's when we're in altcoin season. But the indicator can move pretty quickly. Within days, we can go from 20 to 60 or 70. So I think it's right around the corner. And yeah, those are my predictions for 2025, the end of 2025. I think we see BTC around 150 to 200,000. I think we see a bunch of altcoins in the AI sector, DeFi sector go 20, 30x and even more. And I think Ethereum will be around that $6,000 to $10,000 range, right? And I already gave my predictions on those indices. And yeah, so I honestly think this is a good year to be a crypto investor. My opinion, got to do your own research. But historically, the year after the halving, we do get this parabolic run. It happened in 2013, it happened in 2017, 2021, and now we're in 2025, and I don't think that's going to change. right? Especially if we get those rate cuts, that's definitely going to help out the crypto market as well. But yeah, so those are my final financial predictions for 2025. Let me know what your final predictions are for the assets you're interested in. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.